Welcome to Aquifer Insight. I'm Nikki Young.
And I'm Ann-Margaret Gonzalez, and today we're going to learn how the ongoing drought has taken the San Antonio pool from stage 5 and what that means for aquifer conditions.
We're also going to hear from EAA leadership on some updates about that drought and where we're going. We're going to first hear from General Manager Roland Ruiz.
Then we're going to take it to Mark Hamilton and Paul Bertetti to learn a little bit about aquifer research and current aquifer conditions.
We're also going to learn about how this drought has affected those in the jurisdiction from west to east by taking a trip to the Medina Dam.
Then we're going to take it to Hays County to learn how you can be a good steward of the San Marcos River.
All this and more on this episode of Aquifer Insight. Thank you so much for joining us today, Roland. So the Edwards Aquifer Authority is celebrating 29 years of managing, enhancing, and protecting. Can you talk about how for the last 29 years we've been preparing for the drought that we're in currently?
Sure, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here with you. The story of the Edwards Aquifer Authority is a story of evolution. So you're right. Here we are on anniversary number 29. 29 years, it's hard to believe, and rapidly approaching 30 years of doing this work. And to be honest, in the early days, I think this agency went through the growing pains of like any agency who's got a new mission, a mission that was very different, that didn't exist, quite frankly, anywhere in the state, to take care of this natural resource, this aquifer that was the sole resource of water for the vast South Central Texas region.
So you mentioned that there was a drought of record of 1950s, and it doesn't look like that we will have a repeat of that. But in the last few weeks, we've actually encountered stage 5. That's a historic change. How did we get to that, and what does that look like for permit holders and for the rest of our community? 2.5 million people benefit from this water. So what does that look like, and what does that mean?
Well, that's a very good point. We did reach stage 5, and that since we've had a critical period drought management program in place, it's the first time that we reached stage 5. That means 44% reduction in authorized withdrawal amounts. In other words, every permit holder is cut back to that amount on their annual authorized amount. So it's a big cutback. How we got there was that we're now in year 3 of this drought, which means we've been in a rainfall deficit for 3 years, back to back to back. Without that rainfall, you don't have recharge basically to the system. So all that you have is water leaving the system and very little water coming into the system. Fortunately, we've had some well-timed rains that have lifted us out of stage 5. That's, if you will, kind of the magic of the system. It's just amazing how nature works, because this aquifer, being a limestone aquifer, porous, it's always losing water. Whether you're pumping it out or not, it's always leaving either through springs in various ways. Stage 5 was kind of the kind of milestone you don't necessarily want to see or achieve, but nonetheless, we were able to withstand that. The rain came at the right time, and hopefully we've reversed the trend, or nature has reversed the trend. We will see, but if it doesn't, we're ready. We've done it for the past 3 years, and we'll continue to plug away at what our work is.
And that's why we had the tools in place to do that.
Absolutely. We have the tools, and we have more tools today than we did 29 years ago. Significantly more tools, so we're in a better place. We're in spite of the fact that there are more people living here, as you said, 2.5 million people across the region. That's significantly more than were here in the 1950s. And yet we're able to sustain the aquifer and springs in a much better way, more robust way than obviously occurred back then. And so it's amazing to me that we can do that with so many more people reliant on the aquifer for their water.
And that's really where the hope comes in, right? The next generation, these next 30 years.
Right. There's, when you're in the middle of a drought, it's hard to think hopeful thought because it's so dry, it's hot, and as we get into the throes of summer, things generally don't get better, they get worse because you have heightened demand for water. The temperatures only exacerbate things. But it's actually during these times of drought that I think we have people's attention to think creatively about the future. So what does that mean for us in how we manage? But where the hope comes is that if we can improve what nature has already given us, and what I say by that, not necessarily engineered solutions, but nature-based solutions whereby we help the native vegetation, the soils, do their best job as they were designed to do, to help sustain the aquifer over the long term. So that's a really a generational type of approach. That's why we call it next generation, because we're into legacy building around this resource. The value of the work here is in legacy. It's not in the instant gratification. And I think we have to maintain that view of it. And if you can maintain that view of it, then there's hope. There's hope because what we're doing is we're leaving something better than we found it. At least that's the hope.
Want to hear more about the people behind the mission? Be sure to mark your calendar for the second Tuesday of every month and tune in to the EAA board meetings live on Facebook at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Here at the Edwards Aquifer Authority, we are rooted in research. And now Ann-Margaret's going to learn more about that from our scientists, Mark Hamilton and Paul Bertetti.
Hey Mark, so can you share a little bit with us about the research that's been happening at the Field Research Park?
Sure. So we've had the Field Research Park since 2019, and we have over the years been installing a number of different pieces of equipment to monitor all of the different types of practices that we've installed. In essence, starting about 2021, we captured a couple of rainfall events, but we did not have all the equipment we have now. Recently, the rainfall has been really serendipitous because we have all this different equipment in place where we can measure the outcome of how that rainfall impacts the surface. We have nuclear magnetic resonance. We have different types of soil moisture equipment that we can measure things like soil moisture and conductivity and water potential. We can measure the amount of water that goes in the ground, for example, at each of the berm and swale systems. So having all this equipment in place and having had opportunity during the drought to put all that in place, when we finally did get some rain last week, we were able to capture quite a bit of data, and now we have to analyze that data. So I really think that you can accomplish a really amazing landscape in your own yard just focusing on things like native plants. There are native plants that will bloom in the shade. There's native plants that like a lot of sun. You can take some of the practices we do and scale them down using small cobble or gravel sized rock. You can use pieces of wood, like firewood, and create little systems where you slow down your runoff and prevent erosion in your own yard. It's one thing to install these different land management practices that in visual concept, at least, they look like they're doing amazing things. And observational data has its place, but you really need good quality data that's repeatable in order to conduct good science. So collecting that detailed data allows us to really begin to ascertain and quantify how effective are these practices in terms of reducing erosion, in terms of improving surface water quality, in terms of putting more water into the ground, and whether that water winds up as recharge or as extended soil moisture, they're both a benefit to the system. So the idea here is to do a lot of good over time, but to quantify how much good that does. So then maybe those practices could be utilized elsewhere to have a much bigger net effect on the system.
Hello, I'm Paul Bertetti. I'm the Senior Director of Aquifer Science and Modeling at the Edwards Aquifer Authority in San Antonio. Unfortunately, in the last few years, we've been really short of rainfall. And so we've been in perhaps one of the most significant droughts of the last 50 years, over the last 3 years. We're significantly below our typical rainfall, not only for this time of year, but over the last 3 years in general. And as a result, we've been in critical period management, stage 3 or stage 4 for several months. In fact, fairly recently, we dipped into stage 5 of critical period management for the first time since we've been enacting those features to preserve and protect aquifer and spring flows. Water conservation is always important. Minimizing the amount of water that you use, making sure that your appliances are not leaky, and you have the most up-to-date commodes in your home is always a good idea. And most importantly is just native landscaping, xeriscaping, reducing the demand that your lawn has on the water is a really big important step. So people can take even further options like establishing or installing, rainwater tanks or collection systems or alternative ways to irrigate their property. That has the biggest impact overall. Yeah, so the Edwards Aquifer website has a separate section called the Environmental Data Portal. On that area, you can access water levels and weather stations and other locations in which we actively collect data. Those data are publicly available and available for download. And you can also email the Edwards Aquifer Authority with any questions about that data or how you can access them.
Recently, our EAA Board of Directors got an insight into how this drought is affected across the region. They visited the Medina Dam.
Medina Suburban Irrigated Farms was created in 1910 through investors from Europe, and they secured lands and secured farms to make their development and started construction in 1911 on the Medina Dam and the Medina irrigation system. To 370 days construction time to complete Medina Dam, which was quite a feat. There was well over 1,000 workers working on the dam at the time, all different nationalities, of course locals, but also people from Mexico, people from Asia. People went where the work was, and this was a booming time and a booming project at the time. The name BMA came after the bankruptcy of the Great Depression, and still had there was a viable source here for farmers, for irrigation, for agriculture. So the state, as the receiver of it, created Bear Medina Atascosa Water Controlled Improvement District, and that sprang out in 28, and that's what we've been known as ever since.
Now we're going to take you to San Marcos to hear from Mark Enders, Habitat Conservation Plan Manager for the City of San Marcos, so you can learn how you can be a good steward of the San Marcos River.
Here we are along the banks of the San Marcos River. The San Marcos River is fed by springs from the Edwards Aquifer. They discharge out of the ground at Ocarina Springs area and then flow through the city of San Marcos. This river is very important to the community of San Marcos. The river is a constant 72 degrees, which make it very enticing when temperatures get, 90 to 100 degrees in summer. So we have a lot of visitors coming out, a great place to cool off in the summer. People often ask how they can be good stewards of the San Marcos River, what they can do to protect the San Marcos River. First thing you can do is you can pay attention to park rules that are posted in both Texas State University parks and city parks. So we have many ordinances and park rules that are aimed at protecting our natural resources. So I encourage folks to go online to the City of San Marcos webpage to find out about our park rules before you come to visit. Certainly simple things like picking up trash after yourself and others goes a long way. Also, when in the river, I encourage folks to kind of avoid aquatic vegetation disturbance. So trying to protect Texas wild rice and aquatic vegetation in the river and plants in the river. So tread lightly when you're out there. The San Marcos River is home to several endangered species that we work to protect through the Edwards Aquifer Habitat Conservation Plan. In the main stem of the river, we have our Texas wild rice, which is an aquatic grass. We also have a fountain darter, which is a small minnow that uses aquatic plants in the river as habitat. There's a few things that folks can do when they're out enjoying the San Marcos River to protect some of the endangered species that we're working to protect as part of the Edwards Aquifer Habitat Conservation Plan. For instance, Texas wild rice, which is an aquatic grass that grows in the river, folks can really avoid contact with that and try to avoid trampling or wading or recreating on top of the Texas wild rice.
Thank you for watching. We hope that today has given you insight into how these last 29 years, we have the tools, we have the resources to get us through the harshest conditions and managing through this drought.
And you can continue to be an informed citizen by reading our News Drop magazine, tuning into our Recharge Zone podcast, following us along on social, and visiting our website to learn about aquifer conditions.
For Aquifer Insight, I'm Nikki Young.
And I'm Ann-Margaret Gonzalez.
We'll see you next time.